Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Gail.
And today we're going to show you how to cross Canada entirely by train.
It's a 14-day itinerary.
We're going to start at the Atlantic Ocean and travel clear across Canada to the Pacific Ocean.
It's a 6,500 kilometer journey.
And in the process, we're going to be crossing 5 time zones.
Yes, and we're going to be passing through 8 of 10 Canadian provinces.
And also 7 amazing Canadian towns and cities.
You know, many people think of the Via Rail Canadian as one of the great railway journeys of the world, and indeed it is.
It's truly epic, but what could be more epic than crossing all of Canada using just 4 trains?
So, if you are from Canada or are visiting from another country, buckle up.
Because we have the ultimate bucket list train trip for you. So here's an overview of our 14-day itinerary. We'll be starting in Halifax, Nova Scotia and heading across Canada to Vancouver, British Columbia. Now our first day we'll be spending in Halifax, just looking around the city before we catch the ocean, the Via Rail Ocean train, which is an overnight train that will take us to Montreal, Quebec. We'll be spending a day in Montreal looking at that city before heading off on a regional train that will take us up to Quebec, or often called Quebec City. Once there, we'll spend a day in Quebec looking around that city, quite a fantastic city, before we head off on another regional train that will take us back to Montreal, where we'll stop briefly before catching another regional train that will take us to Toronto, Ontario. Now in Toronto, we'll spend a day looking around that city before catching the classic train, the Canadian, which will take us all the way to Vancouver. Now along the way, we'll be crossing the Northern Ontario's forests before arriving at our hometown, which is Winnipeg, Manitoba. There's a 2-hour stop over there, hopefully. And then we'll be heading across the Canadian prairies and to the foothills of the Rocky Mountains to Jasper, Alberta. And again, this is another about 2-hour pit stop if we're all lucky. And then after that, we'll head across the Rocky Mountains and hit the west coast, which is Vancouver, British Columbia. And that is the end of our Canadian journey. But you will want to allow an extra day, which is day 14 in Vancouver, just to explore that city. Also to allow time before you catch an ongoing trip elsewhere, because the train often arrives late.
This trip, we're spending 1 day in Halifax, but you could easily spend many days as you could in any of the cities that we are featuring. But this will give you a taste of Halifax. Halifax was founded in 1749 as a British naval base, and so there's a lot of military and naval history here. Also, there's a connection in this city to the Great Halifax Explosion, of course, and also to the Titanic disaster that happened 5 years prior. There's also a large African-Canadian community here in Halifax. Indeed, in all of Nova Scotia, that community began long before Halifax in the early 1600s. A highlight that we found in Halifax was the Maritime Museum, which, among other things, has permanent exhibits to the Titanic disaster and the city's connection to that, and the Halifax explosion. For more information on Halifax and all the cities we will be visiting on this train trip, as well as the trains themselves, please look at Travel Intently's playlist Canada by Train, which we will be providing a link to at the end of this video.
But back to Halifax, you'll certainly want to try the seafood here, especially a lobster dinner. But don't as well forget a Haligonian special, which is a donair, which you can get at Tony's World Famous Donair, as just one example. All of our train trips can be booked on the Via Rail website or the Via Rail app on our smartphone, and it can be done quite easily. Now, our first train is going to be on the ocean, which goes from Halifax to Montreal. We're looking at a start date that is 6 months in the future. So we've chosen December 3rd, and that will be our ocean trip to Montreal. Now, the ocean leaves Halifax only 3 days a week, either a Sunday, a Wednesday, or a Friday. So you have to be aware of that when you're planning this trip. We're choosing, as I said, December 3rd. And from there, you'll get various options. The first is economy class, which is basically just a seat, a coach fare. Or the other option, which we would recommend for your bucket list trip, is a sleeper. And the only sleeper class option on the ocean is a cabin for two. Okay, welcome aboard, Gail.
It's great to be here.
So here's our cabin for two. It has a key, which is unusual in a lot of these intercontinental trains. The daytime mode shows you that there is a banquette and a little table. Limited space for luggage, but it's doable. And a little table that you can work on. Fairly comfortable. Now you have your own private bathroom, which has, of course, a toilet and even a shower space.
In the evening, staff transform the seats into lower and upper bunks. Both are quite comfortable, wide, and good length. I'm 6 feet 1 inches long, and there's certainly adequate space for myself. There's a good sturdy ladder going from the upper bunk downstairs for those middle of the night bathroom breaks.
Traveling on the sleeper class, all of the food was included with the exception of extra cost for any alcoholic beverages. The kitchen facilities on the ocean are less extensive than on the Via Rail Canadian, and this is reflective in the food, which is sometimes not quite as fine. You'll be seeing the food on the Canadian soon enough, but it was really very good. We really couldn't complain. Look at that. We were very happy during our time on the ocean.
There is a service car on the train as well, which has Wi-Fi available, as well as there's a small little cafe where you can pick up snacks and what have you, and that's available for sleeper class people in the cabins. There is no dome car as you will find on the Canadian, which we'll be seeing shortly, but the windows are particularly clean, and you can see this as we're approaching Montreal.
We were able to walk from the railway station to our hotel, L'Appartement, on Sherbrooke Street, a major street in downtown Montreal. As you can see, it is a full apartment. It was great for 2 nights because we had a kitchen. Our full day in Montreal was spent walking, and we made a beeline to Schwartz's Delicatessen, which is home to Montreal smoked meat. Now, you can see it's very popular. We didn't stay in line. We went to a shorter line and did takeout. We still had to wait, and we had some ambiance. Oh, there we go. We were heading now off to a picnic spot. It was perfect weather in late April in Montreal, and here we are appreciating that lovely, lovely food in a park on the base of Mount Royal, which gives the city its name. Along the way, we stopped at St. Viateur Bagels, another landmark of eating in this fine city. And we visited Leonard Cohen, who's resting in Shar Hashemayim Cemetery. We continued up the mountain through Mount Royal Cemetery, going to the Belvedere, which is atop the mountain. There you can see the 1906 construction. This is a fine vantage point to look at the city. And there you have Leonard Cohen looking at you. We left the mountaintop by way of the stairs. This is the steep side of the mountain, which would be very difficult to walk up if you were using the stairs. We took the gentle way up through the cemeteries.
There's lots of food choices in Montreal, such as this award-winning Neapolitan pizza chain called Number 900. St. Catherine Street, there's the Eaton Centre with the Time Out food court on the second level. Really excellent food there, lots of choices along the way. We visited this a couple of times for various food. Wonderful setting, good music too as well. On the 9th floor is Lanuvium restaurant, excellent food. It's actually the original Eaton Store restaurant. Our blowout meal, which happened to be Gail's birthday, was at Henri, which is in the former Brooks building. It has an excellent brasserie on the inside with very, very high quality food, as you'll see here. We started with a classic steak tartare, which was again excellent. These are all typical brasserie types of foods that we're having. I had a wonderful duck breast, and Gail had a bowl full of mussels and fries. And then for dessert, we had another classic French dish, which is the Café Gourmand, cafe served with an assortment of petit four. If you're doing this trek in the wintertime, you'll realize by now how cold winter is in Canada. Well, it gets a lot colder as we move west. So here's an opportunity to pick up a really typical Canadian high-end souvenir, and that's a Canada Goose parka. You can't go wrong with one of these.
And a part of Montreal not to be missed is Old Montreal. This is the historic quarter, which has great atmosphere, of course, and lovely restaurants and gift shops. Some of the oldest and newest attractions are here.
So we're now going to be catching a regional train just over for part of the day that's going to be taking us to Quebec City or Quebec. And trains here are available every day of the week. Following our schedule, we're going to be taking a Saturday train on December 6th. Basically, there's two options. One is economy class, and we'll be taking that on this trip. And there's also business class, which we'll be taking on our next train trip.
As David said, we're traveling from Montreal to Quebec City on the economy train. And you can see it's serviceable, more than serviceable. There's a lot of room for luggage, and the seats recline. Now, the food, because we're traveling economy, has to be purchased separately. There's a snack trolley that is wheeled down the aisle, and you can make your selection, payable by credit card. Here we just took a light snack. You'll also maybe notice the change of seasons as we travel across Canada. And that's because different segments were filmed at different times of the year. This, as a reminder, is late April in the province of Quebec. Our hotel lodging for 2 nights was a place called Atypique. And it certainly was atypical, and let's just call it downright quirky. Roll over, Murphy bed. This is a bed that is on the ceiling, and you push down. Push, push, push. And yet, it is actually pretty comfortable. We liked our hotel because it was relatively economical and right within the walls of Quebec. So we started out our morning walking the ramparts of this city. This is a part of the city that goes way back to the 1600s. Here we are in the upper town, and this is the iconic Chateau Frontenac, a Canadian Pacific hotel. And we're continuing on our loop that takes us along the ramparts, which takes about an hour to an hour and a half. But of course, you're going to be stopping and looking at the interesting architecture and the fine places along the way. And here we have the Parliament buildings. This is the capital of the province of Quebec. And here we have the Legislative Council of Quebec, Red Chamber. Now, this was part of a self-guided tour, and it took us there and into the Legislative Library. But ultimately, we were heading for the Parlementaire, which was a 1917 restaurant that's in this lovely 1886 structure. We had the complete meal, a fixed meal, which had products from all over Quebec, and just a feast. And here we have the Cathedral of Quebec, Notre Dame. And this is over 350 years old. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Gorgeous, gorgeous place to visit. It has the distinction of having a holy door, the only holy door in North America. This is an entryway that is open only during Jubilee years. This is a Jubilee year in 2025. Of course, we had to head down the stairs to Lower Town, a historic part of the city. Here's a Place Royale and the ancient church Notre-Dame des Victoires. But it was up the stairs again.
After all that stair climbing, we're really in the mood for a good hearty meal, and we went to La Bouche, which is a fairly well-known restaurant in Quebec City. They serve Quebecois cuisine. We had foie gras. Gail had a nice trout. I had a steak tartare made out of venison, which is quite
like a pumpkin pie,
interesting.
And of course, my favorite, tarte au sucre, made of maple syrup. It's a must-have when you're in Quebec.
Anyways, all this was a wonderful way to end our stay in Quebec City. Our next train trip is going to involve 2 trains, regional trains, that will take us from Quebec City to Toronto. Now again, the trains are available on a daily basis, and according to our schedule, we're going to select December 8th for our train. And as you can see, there's multiple trains every day that you can take. Now, it does involve a connection, and that connection is in Montreal. You want to make sure that you have at least close to a 2-hour layover in Montreal, just in case the trains are late. Again, you have the choice of an economy class or business class. We're going to take business class, which actually we recommend highly. It's most compatible, I think, with our bucket list kind of approach to this trip.
Upon arriving in Montreal, we are able to go into the business class lounge. That's because, of course, we're traveling business class on the train. There are beverages available and always the complimentary apples. reserve your seats early enough, you may be able to get the single seats that face one another. These are at a premium. There's only one set per car. There's a lot of luggage space above you and also at the end of the car. The washrooms are particularly swanky and were very clean.
One of the big benefits of traveling business class is that all of your food and even the alcoholic beverages are included. So we started off with a light breakfast that included fruit juices and different kinds of cakes and coffee as well. And then even before lunchtime, we were offered wine and any kinds of cocktails that we might want. Then for lunch, we got a fairly nice lunch. Again, more wine, so it was we were really well looked after, I would say. Once we arrived in downtown Toronto at the Union Station, it was a quick 5-minute walk to our hotel. This was a Union Hotel, which we found it was quite convenient, well priced for us, and fairly spiffy, we thought. So, welcome to Toronto. We're here at the basically the harborfront. Behind us is Lake Ontario. We're looking back towards the city right now in downtown Toronto.
Yeah, so today is going to be largely a walking day. We have one day to see Toronto. We plan to spend the first half of the day pretty much in the Royal Ontario Museum, the ROM. But other than that, we're going to be walking.
For our day in Toronto, there were lots of things to do. For example, near the hotel was the Hockey Hall of Fame. There was also Eaton Centre on Dundas. But
well, we chose a slightly different route, more eclectic route, true to our nature, I guess you'd say. We visited the CBC building, and here we see this set for Schitt's Creek. We headed up to Queen Street West, which was it's sort of tame now, but it was sort of a bohemian kind of neighborhood. That then led us through Chinatown. We moved our way up there, which is on Spadina. And then from Spadina, that then leads you into the Kensington Market area. Kensington Market, to me, I'm a former Toronto area resident, is a particularly interesting neighborhood. Very multicultural, very ethnic. Again, a truly bohemian neighborhood.
we're now heading up to the Royal Ontario Museum, or ROM. Very interesting architecture. The extension just bursts through the old building. So that's 2008 bursting through a 1910 building.
You could easily spend a day here going through all the various temporary and permanent exhibits.
But nighttime was coming and we had dinner to attend to. There are so many fine restaurants in Toronto. This one is in the financial district. It was called Jump, and we had a good time.
So this is the Biggie train trip. This is taking us all the way from Toronto to Vancouver, 4 nights of travel. So the train only leaves twice a week, so you have to plan accordingly. We're going to be doing this December 10th trip to match our schedule. Now, you'll see that there's economy class seats, which is again just a seat in a room. You don't get any food with it. But we recommend that you take one of the sleeper class options. Now there's 4 of them. There's the berth, and we're going to be showing you pictures of what that looks like. There's the cabin for 1 if you're traveling by yourself. There's the cabin for 2, and we're going to be showing you pictures of that as well. And then there's also the Prestige class. Now, a Prestige, if this is a truly a bucket list opportunity for you, you might want to take that.
A sleeper class ticket will give you access to Toronto's business lounge in the Union Station. Here you can have complimentary beverages and the ubiquitous green apples.
As promised, let's take a tour of the cabin for two, and that'll be followed by another tour of the upper and lower berths.
Okay, so the room right now is in its daytime mode. We have two very comfortable seats. Remember, this train was built in 1954. This is 1954 rolling stock. So it really has the heft and, sort of the look of the early 1950s. To open the door, and David can show you our little affair here.
And it's certainly very nice to have a toilet in your room. However, there is no shower.
And pull this back. Space, of course, is of a premium. You have your plugs for your electronics and various combinations of lighting fixtures.
So here we are back in our bedroom on the Canadian, and this is the nighttime setup. Now, these are pretty good sized beds, I would say. That they come with very nice couple of pillows. Right here, there's a little lamp that we have right here that can be controlled. A little switch right there in 2 levels. And it's a good size. It's a good size actually for the bottom's bunk. And then for the top bunk, and I'm just going to stand up here. It requires a little bit of maneuvering to get up and down in the middle of the night to go to the washroom, but it does work. So this is the upper bunk. This is where I'm going to be spending the night, and it's actually quite nice. It's got a very nice mattress. Again, 2 pillows, and then up above here, if you can see it, there's also a similar kind of a lamp and a little pocket there where you can store your iPhone and glasses and what have you. It's a good length. Like I'm 6 feet 1 inches, and it can certainly accommodate me, and it's a very generous width as well.
The berth is the most economical private sleeping arrangement that you can have. David and I are able to partake in all of the free and luxurious eating that there is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner during our travel. So where I'm sitting is showing you the day configuration, which is 2 benches that face each other. Very spacious, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of room.
Underneath here we have a storage area. So whatever luggage you have to be bringing in is going to pretty much have to fit under here. So other than our chairs that you see, our banquettes that you see here, there's really not too much to talk about. You'll notice right away that there's no table between us here, so you're not going to be able to set up something to work on or anything like that. And the other big thing, of course, is that there is no electrical outlet here at all. If you're traveling in berths, you might want to bring along with you a 3-foot extension cord and a good-sized battery as well, so that you can charge it either in the lounge area in the center of the Skyline Lounge, or there's another plug at the bathroom area. Also in the park car there are plugs there as well.
The staff transform the room to its nighttime configuration. Oh, like I'm about 5'5.5", and I am very comfortable. The curtain is very thick.
It creates a nice barrier between you and the corridor going through the train. Now in the upper bunk, there's lots of room there. I can sit fully upright in my bed. It's certainly long enough for my 6'1" length. Now because we're in berths, we don't have our own bathroom. There's no enclosed space at all. However, the bathrooms are located just behind us here. This one has a little counter, a little stool that you can actually sit at. You can see the garbage can right here. Centrally located underneath the window is the sink. There's only one tap, and it only stays on for a little bit after you push the button. And the other thing is that it's only hot water. And over here you have your usual toilet, little button off to the side here that you press to flush it. So I think it's time for me to take a shower. It's been a couple of days and my hair's looking kind of matted and unkempt. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to step into the shower stall. Right now we're looking back at the door that I came in through, and you can see there's a nice big mirror mounted on it. There's a little seating area down here, right there, and you can see my bag of towels and shampoo and what have you are in there. There's a little place where you can put your watches and what have you, your shampoos and that kind of thing. There's a shower stall itself is just a fairly nice little unit, and you can see it's got, again, a grab bar there, a fixed shower head, and then down below here are the controls that we have. So right here we have the temperature control, and you just adjust that with a lever, and then you push this button right here, which will turn on the water for a set amount of time, and I guess you just keep pressing that as long as you need it to complete your shower duties. And I think that's pretty much it.
Prepare yourself for some magnificent food on the Via Rail Canadian. This includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and this is available so long as you're on a sleeper class. It doesn't matter if you're in a berth or a bedroom.
You'll eat your meals in the dining car, and you can see they're really nice setup, very, very restaurant-like. Real silverware, real china, real linen napkins and tablecloths. And at the back, you'll take a peek inside of the kitchen, because it really is a full kitchen, which helps to explain why the meals are so varied and so refined. The menu varies for each meal and each day, and you have multiple choices, and there's a healthy choice of Canadian beers and wines. So it's a rare situation, Gail, but we're actually sitting by ourselves today, so we get to sit across from each other and have our lunch together.
The first course of this lunch was a choice of either fruit juice or minestrone soup.
So Gail, what are you having?
I'm having the dal, and it's just lightly spiced. It's very, very nice. It's on rice. And David, you are having?
And I'm having the ginger beef with, I've got, of course, the coleslaw with it, and ginger beef and rice. This has been on their menu for some time, so it's quite good, and always have enjoyed it.
This was for one dessert choice for lunch today, but it is a signature dessert on the Via Canadian. It's caramel carrot cake.
Dinners are always by reservation, and you'll be given a choice of 3 possible seatings, the first starting at 5:30 roughly, and the last being about 8:30 at night. You can definitely look forward to a different menu every night.
There are a couple of possible stops along the way between Toronto and Winnipeg. This is Sioux Lookout, the one closer to Winnipeg, but you might be stopping at Capriole. These stops can be anywhere from a few minutes to up to an hour. One of the public spaces in the Via Rail Canadian is the Skyline car, and it has a lounge at the bottom, and above it has a dome, and you get virtually a 360-degree view of the astounding scenery around you. There are also activities up here, for example, lectures by staff on trains, on wildlife, beer tasting and wine tasting, all Canadian, of course. Downstairs, there are activities like puzzle making and card games.
At the very end of the train is the bullet-shaped park car. Now, on the lower level of the park car, you'll find a complete bar a little, almost like a cocktail bar kind of seating area. There's also little snacks that you can pick up, and these are all included in your fare. And then there's also selections of wines and beers, Canadian craft beers that you can buy. In the bullet-shaped lounge at the back, you'll find a very communal spot, great place for conversations. Above that is the dome area, and again, it's very similar to the Skyline Lounge. The only thing you have to be aware of is that if you are traveling during the summer months, which start in May, that there will be limited access to the park car unless you happen to be traveling in prestige class. Welcome to Winnipeg, our hometown. We'll be here for a very brief stopover that amounts to, at a maximum, 2 hours.
We're filming this in late May, and that accounts for the light dress, which is possible in Winnipeg at this time of year. But if you were arriving in Winnipeg in the wintertime, you'd need one of those Canada Goose parkas. Now, we have prepared a little video on 4 walks in Winnipeg, and it's in our Canada by Train playlist. It's called Here's What to Do in Winnipeg on a Stopover. This is, I'm assuming that you might be in Winnipeg for anywhere from 1 or 2 hours. And we have 4 walks ranging from 15 minutes to 1 hour.
Now, Winnipeg certainly is worthy of a longer stay over, just like Montreal or Toronto or Halifax or Vancouver. However, it is kind of limiting because you're on the Canadian. If you were to stop for any amount of time, it would mean purchasing 2 tickets, which would amount to an extra cost. The other thing is that you would also have to plan for a stopover of 3 to 4 days because the train only travels twice a week. Now, if you do decide to spend 3 to 4 days in Winnipeg, there is certainly lots to do, to see, and to eat in our hometown.
It's winter time, and we're on the prairies. The prairies can be particularly magnificent at this time of year. There are blood red sunrises and sunsets. There are always the iconic grain elevators. The sky is always big, and at this time of year, the shadows are long. But if you appreciate these elements of the prairies, you're best to be traveling the Via Canadian from Vancouver to Toronto, that is from west to east. Because if you were traveling the way we are now, from east to west, on our train, we would be traveling through the prairies at nighttime in the darkness, and you would miss it.
Well, it's lunchtime again, and you are certainly well fed on the Canadian. Now, for lunch here, I'm having the Canadian version of the gingered beef. Both Gail and I are having it, actually. Dessert is their always good caramel carrot cake. Now the meals just keep coming, and for dinner we're having a really good prime rib of beef with horseradish, well-cooked asparagus, excellent meal really. Gail's having a nicely prepared whitefish for dinner. Yet another dinner, we're having an appetizer of mushroom soup. I'm having a nicely prepared filet mignon for dinner, and Gail's having a fillet of trout. I think you're seeing the pattern here in terms of what each of us prefers. Dinner on another day is their very classic rack of lamb. Starts with a nice soup as usual, super juice option to start with. And a rack of lamb, very nicely prepared. Gail's having a Dijon chicken. For dessert, I'm having their super decadent triple chocolate cake that is so rich. And Gail's having a very nice cheesecake for dessert.
Approaching fire-ravaged Jasper, Alberta, a lovely resort town that is a favorite stop point on the Via Canadian. Usually you have an hour there, whether you're going eastward or westward. So in the direction we're going, we would normally be arriving at about 6 a.m. and that means that there would only be coffee shops and bakeries open rather than what you're seeing here. You're seeing us here in December of 2024. The terrible fire that destroyed 1/3 of this town took place in the summer of 2024. But, business is still open and the people want to see visitors. So we certainly encourage other people to be as enthusiastic as we are about buying. There are beautiful stores here, quality items, and it really is a pleasure to be here. As we round the corner from the main street, you're going to be seeing some of the damage. Much of the damage was to the residential district, and at the time of speaking now in 2025, many of the people have not yet returned. The building does continue. The historic railway station, built in 1926, very close to the fire damage, was spared by the fire, and it's a beautiful building.
So we're on the last leg of our Canadian adventure. We are now passing through the Rocky Mountains and along the Fraser Valley, and we'll just let the scenery speak for itself.
Traveling westward, the Via Rail Canadian is scheduled to arrive in Vancouver at 9 a.m., but it could be anywhere from an hour early to 10 hours late. So don't plan on any onward travel on the day of arrival.
So this is day 14, the last day of our itinerary. And as you recall, we started on December 3rd in our imaginary trip, and it's now December 15th. And that's about when these pictures were actually taken. Now there's lots to see and do in Vancouver, to be sure, but for us, we always come to Vancouver by train in the wintertime because we have family living in North Vancouver. So we're showing you sights from North Vancouver. You've already seen Lonsdale Quay, which is a very pleasant sea bus trip away from downtown Vancouver. As you move up the slopes, there's plenty of very pleasant hiking trails, one being the Mosquito Creek Trail, another being the Capilano River Trail. But whatever you decide to do in Vancouver, I'm sure you'll find the city a very rewarding way to end your exciting 14-day trip clear across Canada.
We hope you enjoyed our journey across Canada.
And that'll inspire you perhaps to take your own Trans-Canada journey by train from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast or vice versa.
And don't forget about those communities along the way. They really are interesting and really deserve a stop and exploration. We particularly put in a word for our hometown of Winnipeg.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you did like this video, then please by all means hit that like button. And as well, if you're interested in following us on our further adventures, whether that happens to be by foot or by rail, then hit that subscribe button. We'd certainly like to see you along for the ride.
We do love your comments as well. So take care.
Bye-bye.